Hi guys, I got several power tools that don't work because of bad batteries, but I'm going to fix that on this episode of Fixin MaTools. Stick around if you want to see how I did it. I bought this 18-volt battery from Harbor Freight, not knowing that there were several types of 18-volt batteries at Harbor Freight. This one is the cheapest one, which is $12.99 or 13 bucks, and it's 1300 milliamp hours. Once I found out that there were higher capacity batteries there at 18 volts, which is 1500 milliamp hour instead of these 13, I had already cut these up and destroyed it, so I decided to use these batteries in my cordless screwdriver just to test the concept. So I grabbed my Craftsman 14.4 volt battery pack that hasn't been used in 10 years and see if I can get this thing apart and try to start working on it. Now I separated the batteries in the two with the tabs on just each two batteries, and there was like a spare battery that's a single, but I knew that the twos were going to have to be kept together in pairs, so I kept those pairs just so it makes the soldering easier. And these batteries are not the ones you just saw me pull out of the 1300 milliamp hour battery pack. These are actually the ones from the 1500, and now I'm rebuilding my 14.4 volt battery. As you can see, I'm looking at the other battery pack, which is the 14.4, and I'm just looking at it and making all the tabs be in the exact same spots. And then once I get them in the same spots, what I do is tape the thing together and flip it over and solder the bottom tabs. So all the top tabs are already together. Now I just got to take care of the bottoms. Now what you're witnessing is the start of my learning curve. Since I'm doing 6 battery packs, this is like actually my first big battery pack. And the soldering that you're going to see is not the greatest, but it does work. And it took me a while to figure out the best way to make the solder stick to the batteries, not get it too hot that it messes up the battery. One thing that I found that worked for me is holding the battery tab down with that little screwdriver and then soldering it, and that keeps it from trying to flip up and move around on you. And as you can see, I got the other battery pack right there, so I make sure that all the connections are the exact same way. Now on this particular battery pack, the 14.4 has a fuse on it, so now I'm going to pull that off and pull the top off because that's where all the connectors are that need to be brought onto the new battery pack. I'm trying to be real careful not to mess up the little fuse or the heat thing, whatever this little thing is in there. I'm trying to be real careful with it. And I have to be real careful bending this one because it has a really stiff tab on that part. And then I use a screwdriver and just keep manipulating until I break it free from the single battery. Now these original tabs are welded on and not soldered on, so they are a little difficult to get off. And then once I get it off, I just straighten up the tab and get it ready to solder back on. Well, it takes me a little bit to realize that I have to take that tape off that I used to hold them together because it's just too tight in there. And I look at the voltage and I'm excited that it's got the correct voltage. Now it's just a matter of buttoning it up and giving it a shot.
Around the back and to the front of people standing in line.
Now this is the battery that has the 1500 milliamp hours instead of the 13. And I just do the same thing. I open this one up and these are the batteries that I'm going to use in the 6 battery packs that I'm rebuilding. Now that I know this concept works, I just take all those batteries, pull the tabs out, and just start getting things lined up. And here's the harvest. You get the ones that you keep together and a couple of single batteries. Now you're ready to put it into the other stuff. I learned I don't even have to cut them. These are the ones I want apart. Just go on and peel that off of there and you got the two apart. Saves a little time. Saves a step. Guys, I am so glad I bought this little security drill bit set. Turns out it uses like a Torx, but it has a little pokey in the middle of it. Well, this thing here works on taking it out. So I just lucked out on that one again. But I had the correct bits, because if I hadn't, I would have had to go buy that or try to figure out a different way to get these out of the Craftsman's. The Harbor Freight ones are just straight Phillips heads, but these are like a Torx, but a safety bit Torx. So there we go. Now we can get this one out of there and get some new batteries in it. So I kind of drew on a outline, traced out this battery, and now what I do is I use this as my template and I just start grabbing batteries, and usually I go with the pairs and kind of line up the pairs, and that one looks like it goes there. We'll grab another pair. That looks like it goes like that, and I just build a little battery pack. And I'll start that should go like that. And then once I get it all set up, we'll start soldering. And what I learned is if you put it on the battery and let that get hot first instead of the little tab, it will flow up onto there. And these look bad, I know, but I did get better at my soldering. And once again on these battery packs, getting that one battery that has the terminal connections on it off of there without breaking it, you have to just take your time, be careful, and pry it off. True confessions, I forgot how that little tab went on here, so I opened up another one that I'm going to be doing in a second, and I got a reference on it now. So time to solder this little heavy carry and load part on. And then disaster struck. Yes, I blew the little fuse right here. And here's how the good batteries look. They look charging and then charged. Let me just start off with saying all of this stuff was broken. But this is back, years and years ago. This is my 14.4. Back alive, along with the other spare battery. Okay. On my 19.2s, here's that, the flashlight that goes with it, and got that, and 4 batteries. Here's the one in the flashlight, and these 2 are back up to speed. And the very first thing I fixed was this electric screwdriver, and I tell you what, it's an old Craftsman, and the batteries look like this in it. So I made up a little battery pack, stuck it in there, and booyah. So all these things that were broken are now back into the arsenal. Now this, guys, in full disclosure, on one of those 19.2s, I blew the fuse by shorting it out accidentally when I was putting it back together. Well, I put on the bottom of that one, you know, that I have to use my hobby charger. Now this hobby charger is pretty cool. It's a 12 volt charger. I mean, the input is 12 volts. So what I did is out of an old AT computer, I took the power supply out, and there was a guy online that showed how to hook it up. And this one's ground. If I hook it to this one, it's 12 volts. If I hook it to this one, it's 12 volts. And if I hook it to this one, it's 5 volts. And it's just a little thing that I built up. And once I turn this on, powers up this hobby charger, and this thing has got to be 25, 26 years old. It's an Electrify computerized charger, and it charges everything. But I just made some leads that go into my old spot so it hooks up on here correctly. This is on my 14.4. And what I do is I tell it's a NiCd battery, put it on automatic charging, and I hit the charger. It checks the polarity, checks out how many batteries are in it, and it knows how to charge it. And it shows right now it's 15.94 volts. And so what it's going to do is it starts feeding it amperage, 0.1 amps, and keeps ramping up the amperage and charges it here. So on this one I have leads that go into there that click directly onto this battery, and I mark the positive and the negative on there, and I just hook it up, tell it it's NiCd, and it charges it. It's a little bit more pain than to stick it into the regular charger, but it charges it. So I've got four 19.2s that are good, and two 14.4s, and this one's the 4.8. So anywho, this is the setup I have to do for the batteries that the charger won't work on. Well guys, as you can see, I'm back in business again. And the main reason it took me so long to start this project is I was a little worried about the soldering, but it turned out not to be that big of a deal. Just make sure you got the right flux, the right solder. I just used the cheap stuff from Menards or Lowe's or Home Depot, one of those. And remember, when you're putting the soldering strips on there, to not put them on the wrong way. If you touch the wrong way, it will spark and burn you. Now, I bet you're curious to how I know that, but just take my word on that one. Anyway, I got my tools back, and I hope you enjoyed this, and thank you for watching this episode of Fixin' My Tools.